Oh, this is so confident, inspiring, amazing. Yeah, definitely more fun than the tamed 35 kilowatt version. It's very weird. I keep trying to reach for the clutch. Well, I guess it can be if you really push it. When it goes to higher revs, you definitely feel that torque. It's a super comfortable bike. Again, I think my mind got stuck on that. In this bike, it says that this is limited to 35 kilowatt. And I know I mentioned that like 3 or 4 times already. But for this limitation, this bike is powerful. Today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the importance of trying out different motorcycles before you feel like you bought one and then you just feel disappointed, like if it was not the best choice, it's not really for you, and you end up regretting it. So the best way to avoid that is just to try out different bikes. Now, dealerships will allow you to test bike some bikes before you buy, but you might not have the opportunity of testing everything that you want. Some dealerships might have multi-brand motorcycles, and they might have event days in which you can just show up and test out all the bikes that they have there for testing. That would be one of the ideal situations, that instead of looking for, how good this bike looks, how all the specs, how much power, how much torque, all that kind of stuff, which is great to know, but it means nothing if you don't put a leg over the bike and ride it. That is the optimal situation, so you know what you want, because specs is only one part of the equation. Riding position, the geometry, the engine that you have, they all have different characteristics, and they will all give you a unique experience. I love my Vulcan S, that's why I ride daily. I love the sound of the engine. There's an aero exhaust in it. And I love this tuk 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 tuk, like you might hear now, that the bike does. This type of sound is very typical of twin cylinders. So another important factor when you're thinking about different bikes is the engine, type of engine that you have. A twin cylinder is different than a triple, different than an Inline-Four, different than a V2. Each one of these configurations brings a different feeling that can make or break the experience you have with a motorcycle and can make you disappointed or not. For instance, on my Vulcan S now, one of the things that I really like is engine braking. I'm going here downhill. I'm doing 50 kilometers an hour because this is limited and sometimes they have radars over here. And I actually need to give some gas in fourth gear to keep around 50 kilometers an hour. And for me, this is an important characteristic, mostly of the engine braking, because I like to have the possibility of just cut the gas and the bike slows down, and then I can put the gas as needed or put the brake as needed. On the other hand, this twin engine, the throttle response can be a little bit jerky, and I've experienced this with other motorcycles with the same with twin engines. For instance, the MT-07 or the Triumph, which one it was? I'll have to get back to it on that. I forgot which Triumph I tried, which was also a twin cylinder, and I had the same feeling. On the other hand, a triple will give you a smoother experience in terms of acceleration and deceleration, but it's a little bit in between the low grunt of a twin cylinder and the high power at higher revs. It touches a little bit on both worlds. And also, an Inline-Four has the tendency of having a little bit less of lower grunt and love revving, where most of the power comes from. So these are all things that one needs to consider and experience that you don't really get just by looking at a spec sheet. Other important factors are like ergonomics. How do you feel when you're sitting on the bike? You know, if you need to stop and put your foot down, do you get a good stable footing? If you need to ride for a long time, are your legs too bent? Like in a more aggressive position of sports bikes? Or a more relaxed, comfortable position of an adventure bike, or even more almost couch-like of a cruiser. Also, the chassis is very important because it can be super planted and work like a scalpel, and you lean in and the bike stays at that lean angle throughout the turn, or maybe you need to give some adjustments here and there while you're doing those turns. These are all things that can satisfy you or can be frustrating. So when you're in a bike that you lean in and you don't have to do many corrections, it can really give you a feeling of control and confidence that you might not find in another bike that you need to do little corrections. And in terms of ergonomics, if you have a sports bike and it's a more aggressive riding position, maybe after a while you're tired and your wrists hurt a bit, and obviously we can all adapt to it. But if you don't, and you start having wrist pain after 15 minutes of riding a motorcycle, how long will you actually ride it for? Or how often will you ride it? These are all things that you should test out by trying different bikes and making sure that your decision is not just based on looks or spec sheet. Obviously you can do those and then you ride them, and maybe you find the perfect one with the perfect looks, your perfect spec sheet, and you feel perfectly good on it. But ideally you test them out. Not every brand produces motorcycles for everyone. Not all motorcycles, despite belonging to the same class, are the same. There's always little nuances, and they are built for different purposes and also for different wallets. You can have very expensive motorcycles which are not the greatest to ride, and you can have some more simpler budget-like motorcycles which are just absolutely awesome and comfortable, and you just want to jump on them every time. And it doesn't need to, you don't need to rent a motorcycle for an entire day and ride it the entire day to know if it's the one for you or not. Obviously this helps. The longer you stay on a motorcycle, the better you get to know it. But if you don't have that chance, and you have some of these events that multiple brands with multiple motorcycles allow you to ride, why not take advantage of that? Even 15 minutes can start giving you a hint to whether or not your motorcycle which you love looking at is actually the right one for you or not. So let me know in the comments, have you bought a motorcycle and you regret it? Do you use it as often as you thought you would ride it? And perhaps you tried different motorcycles and you were totally surprised by how you felt with a specific motorcycle that you were not expecting. I had something similar with the Tridents, specifically the Triumph Trident 800 and the Street Triple 765. I was definitely not expecting to feel what I felt, and I had tried other motorcycles in the same class as well. Maybe on spec sheet some other motorcycle would be better, but I didn't get the same, let's call it, smile factor as I did with the Triumph. And again, that's a very different motorcycle than my Vulcan S, and I love my Vulcan S. So maybe you have multiple motorcycles that you love. Let me know in the comments, and I wish you a safe ride.